Mitch, and welcome to the 1000 Houses podcast. I'm here with Tom Nardone, and we're going to be talking about his path to success. Tom, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Mitch. Thanks for having me on the podcast today.
So let's get a little background of where you started from to get where you are today. So what does your background look like?
Okay, my background, we probably have similar upbringings in the real estate business, and we could talk about that later, some of the early mentors we might have learned from. But I'm here in sunny South Florida, Fort Lauderdale area, and I got started in this business when I moved down from the Northeast and got a job as a letter carrier at the ripe old age of 19, and suddenly got really bored with that job after several years. But in around 1985, I'm 63 years old now, but in 1985, there was a whole series of Robert Allen No Money Down seminars going across the country. You probably remember those back in the early days. And I jumped into one of those and actually sat next to someone who said, well, if you think this is good, you need to take the Miller-Schaub course. And Jack Miller and John Schaub were teaching a course together at that time. So I did attend that course. And what they pointed out to me, those guys, was they said, you're a mailman? And I said, yeah. And they said, man, you get to see the good stuff that we really wish that we could see. And that is, you know, you're driving around, you're walking around neighborhoods all day, and you get to see vacant, rundown houses. And better than that, Mitch, as you remember back in the 80s, we had no internet. We had no cell phones. So, I mean, it was like the US mail was it. So back in those days, we had the RTC crisis and the SNL crisis that was going on. So I quickly realized that, wow, I'm delivering a lot of certified letters here from banks and mortgage companies. And the only reason a bank or a mortgage company back in those days would send somebody a certified letter is if they didn't get your payment and it's been like 30 days or more late. So I would go up to people's doors as a mailman to deliver their mail, and I'd say, hey, I got a certified letter from Kislak Mortgage Company, and I need you to sign for this. And literally the homeowner would look at me and say, I got to get rid of this house. Do you know anybody who wants to buy it? So I'd be standing there in my postal uniform and I'd say, yeah, but let me come back in the evening in my civilian clothes and let's talk about this. So all through the 80s and 90s, I pretty much didn't have to do any lead generation because I would just come across these deals on my mail routes. So I would just, in many cases back then, a lot of the mortgages were even fully assumable without a due on sale clause. So I just say, give me your coupon book and I'll take over from here and give them 1,000 or 2 down. And I took over a lot of mortgages and started building a portfolio of single family houses. And that's what got me started off, Mitch, back in the 80s.
So you were a landlord for a while.
I was a landlord and you know, I developed as a mail carrier a portfolio of about 36 or 37 houses, all on my mail routes. And never went outside of those boundaries and never did any fixing and flipping. But I reached a point where I had enough properties that I didn't even want another one. And quite honestly, the cash flow was thin. You know, when you factor in vacancies and you factor in, you know, repairs and the hurricanes that like to naturally blow the roofs off every now and then, it was not an easy road. And that led, yeah.
So you kind of had the same experience I had with the rentals. Is they've been selling a myth. I mean, you know, they say, well, you know, you got a payment of 500 and you're collecting 900, so you're making 400 a month, so that's $4,800 a year. Bullshit. You didn't count any expenses, you know, and
exactly.
And every expense on the planet is on your side of the table. It was my experience too, about 25, 26, 27 houses. And they were running me ragged. I wasn't making any money. Same thing.
Yeah. Yep. Same thing here. So now when you took us up to that last real estate appreciation, we had like which peaked at around 2005, as I'm sure you well know. Boy, all of a sudden, you know, cash flow was, it was marginal, but equity wise was looking really like I had done something really smart. But then 2007 and 2008 arrived. And I was like, wow, all that last 15 years of equity appreciation just kind of peeled off in a real quick way. And it was a real struggle to hang on to the homes. I mean, it was challenging. And we had just had a huge hurricane here that literally ripped all my roofs off in one day, including the house I lived in. So it was a challenging time. And we all know what happened after that in 2008 through 2010. So I started liquidating the properties, and I didn't sell them all, but I sold about 75% of them and kept the best ones that I felt had the best future potential. And then I started going more into fixing and flipping to generate income. And we fixed and flipped over about 300 properties. And it's a good model, but next to the model that I do today, which is developing mobile home lots and building site-built homes and developing property, is, in my opinion, it's a way better way to spend your time if you want to make chunks of cash, especially in the mobile home world. So that's where I've transitioned to today.
Okay, so people always say, what strategy is the best, or what should I shoot for, or what should I go into in this business? What's the best strategy? Let's say the first thing you got to decide is, are you a cash guy or are you a cash flow guy? So, because that'll eliminate about half of the choices, whichever one you pick, So I chose to be cash flow guy. So I was selling my houses on 30-year notes, where I would get the payments, but I didn't have any of the liabilities because it wasn't my house anymore. So that's how I got to where I was at. But it was the same journey up to that point. Just realizing that the rental income was very unpredictable. It was flimsy at best, And but I seller financed a lot of mobile homes in my career. One time I bought 140 mobile homes in like 60 days, and they were all in other people's parks. And all I did was buy the boxes and owner finance the boxes for 3 times. Of course, it was a different time. We're buying those houses. If you bought them 20 at a time from the the repo lots, you could buy them for 6,000 a piece. Then you could owner finance them for like 24,000, with 2,000 or 3,000 down at 14.5% before Dodd-Frank. And and the ROI was out the roof. I mean, of course, a lot of moving parts, because no one really takes ownership of those mobile homes when they're on someone else's land. They just, when they get tired, they just leave. They didn't sell them and hand someone else my payment book or anything. They just walked away from them. So I think I sold those 140 mobile homes 500 times. It's a great business if you never want to lose any inventory, or very slowly lose your inventory. But today, mobile home parks seem to be all the rage, but they were selling these things at 4% and 5% cap rates before. I don't know about right this minute. And I always figured the guy that, tell me if I'm wrong, the guy that got the short end on the stick, I always thought was the developer, because you couldn't really pinpoint your cost. You didn't know. And then they would get in. When you're dealing with the city and all these bureaucracies, it's hard to really calculate what you're going to be into anything for.
Yeah.
If you're having to go through them. Do you find that to be true?
Yeah, I do. And if you're doing if you're not taking over an established up and running park that's already cash flowing, and you're truly taking on a development deal, then you better have some really good, successful business models not that far away from you to go by. And that's, in fact, shifting to another subject. Right now, we actually have a 242 space park under contract right now that we've been doing our diligence over on the last month. And it's one of these things where the sellers, the original owner, he had gotten cancer and died and left the whole park to the wife and to the son. And they just don't want anything to do with it. There's already like a phase 1 and phase 2 of this project that's already up and running and cash flowing with about 150 homes on it. But the back half, they started turning into a model that we see a lot here in Florida. And Mitch, maybe you have this in Texas, and that's the RV and park model. And that's really popular here for overnight pull-ins, the big diesel pushers that go through town, and of course, Florida and also Texas is kind of a destination state for warm weather. So right now is our maximum time of the year where all these parks are filling up. So there's some very successful high-end RV parks around our area here that literally a 50 wide by 75-foot deep lot is selling for $200,000 to $400,000 on a sale model. You know,
Really?
we're
They're selling.
yeah,
So they kind of like condoized it or whatever. They just,
they
well, I guess it's just a
base
lot.
correct. Basically, yeah.
Because it's got to have some association dues and everything, I guess, you know.
Yeah, you know, you got to provide an HOA, you got to provide a clubhouse, swimming pool, pickleball's popular these days. We got a big lake with fishing there. So there's lots of amenities and people will pay a premium for that. And
Yeah. It's a great business, but you know, I'm in the storage business, self-storage business,
mhm.
and everyone says, what a cash cow. You know, I said, well, everything works pretty good when it's paid for. When you're on the way to getting it paid, no, it's everything you can do, you know, to get it paid off, you know. Um, so that's your MO. So that's a terrific cash flow, reoccurring. I call it forever cash, right? Because that park will end when you want, at
Yeah.
least the rental spaces, you know.
Mhm.
Um, Probably when you, how I will look at those deals is I'm selling that back half to people for 200 to 400. If I sell enough of those at a good price, I'll pay off the front piece where I'm just collecting rent. And now I got a free and clear piece of property and just cash coming in with very little
That's
expenses.
that's the business plan. Exactly. That's the business plan. Now, you know, I don't know if that appeals to your listeners in your audience here, but I'll tell you what will appeal to your listeners, and that is just doing one-on-one scattered lots. And we've been doing very, very well with these. We brought in the last month, this month actually, we had 3 brand new double wides we ordered from the factory. We put them on scattered lots here and there, and it took us a long time to find really the sweet spot where you can get the dirt at the right place. It's already zoned for mobile homes, set up a double wide on it. We have been clearing about $100,000 on each sale we do, because for some magical reason, you take a $30,000 lot, you take a $100,000 home, you've got your block level tie, setup fees and stuff like that, pour a driveway, you know, docks, decks, and stairs. But when you put it on the market, you have now a product you can sell for about $275,000. And we have a lot of cash buyers that are exiting some of these northern states with all the, you know, the COVID circus that kind of went on over the last couple of years. And they're coming down here and they want a piece of this South Florida freedom and the warm weather. And to find a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,800 square foot house is typically what we put together. Is that's a value if you could buy something like that for $275,000. And we don't buy just a bare box with panels. I mean, as you know, Mitch, there's lots of mobile homes out there in this day and age that, you know, they're full drywall on the inside. They have drywall details, coffered ceilings, 42-inch wall cabinets, 9-foot ceilings. They make some very nice mobile homes that you can buy at a very attractive price. So
Yeah, they really
that's
do. I mean,
yeah.
I've had a 2,800 square foot triple wides. We do the same thing down here. We usually try to buy, you know, we'll buy the scattered lots or the individual lots, of course, but trying to buy 10 or 20 acres and get 15 or 20 lots, you know what I mean? You know, or even half-acre lots are good. We don't like to go less than a half acre.
Yeah.
But we're doing the heck out of that. We do that a lot.
Mm.
And it kind of got us out of the competition for all the houses, because it seems like in the last 7 or 8 years, everybody in the world's become a house flipper. So I took a left into mobile homes, and it's starting to catch on a little bit now. But for the longest time, I was the only one. We were the only ones really out there, you know, doing it. And the other thing is we sell or finance our product at 30 years with a 10% or better down. So it's a temporary cash flow, but it could go on for years. And when they pay you off, you know, my people don't usually refi because they're inherently flawed. So the only time we really get paid off is when they put it up for sale and the realtor gets a new loan buyer, and then now we're getting a call for a payoff. So we do that an awful lot. cool thing about mobile homes is nobody really wants to finance one. So if you're an owner financier and you solve the problem of the mobile home, do you, when you're selling your mobile homes, are people going to the banks and getting the money? Or are they mostly cash?
Well, a lot of them have been FHA, VA, or USDA, and we just have Boca Raton is the town right next door here, which is pretty high end for South Florida. But believe it or not, we do have some mobile home parks here where, I'm sorry, mobile home subdivisions. And I think your listeners have to know that this is not a park rent model. What we're discussing now, we're talking about, the land comes with the mobile home, just like it would with a single family home. So we have a home here. It was 35 years old. It was built in 1980. And I can't believe we put it on the market. Our buyer found a lender who financed it, and he got a 30-year conventional loan on a 35-year-old mobile home. So as long as the land comes, there are financing products out there.
There are, but the guy who's doing that's probably pretty stellar. He's probably got, an 800 plus credit score or something, close. I mean, so because I'm dealing in affordable housing, we got two different markets. You're dealing in. It sounds like you're dealing in people with retirement money and are trying to get, the sun worshipers. They're trying to get into the sun and get out of all those big cities. My model is a little bit different. Is I'm just selling affordable housing, and mobile homes is the last bastion of affordable housing. That's the last thing before the bridge, before you go live under the bridge.
I agree.
But like Tom says, got some fantastic products. I mean, there's some mobile homes that you'd be super proud to live in. They're actually probably built better than stick-built houses because they're built in a controlled environment and they're way over engineered, because of the industry,
Yeah. And, another thing we've dipped our toe into this year is modulars. As we're having this call today, we're like 6 weeks after Hurricane Ian just ruined thousands of houses over here on the West Florida coast. And mods are really kicking in right now, and people are putting them up on stilts. We got one project we're doing in the Keys where we're putting it up about 12 foot high on stilts, and we're building a legal habitable downstairs enclosure. And these homes, it doesn't matter if they're modular or even if they're mobile. I mean, it depends on what market you're in as to how these properties are looked at. A property in the Keys that's a mobile home, you could be, within an hour north of Key West, even an old rundown mobile home could be worth $500,000. So just depends what market you're in and finding a sweet spot where this will work, where you live. There are places. That might be an extreme example, but the mods are a good way to go as well.
Well, we've got a little vacation coming up in February 2023. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we, a lot of my networking and a lot of my funding sources that I developed over the years, Mitch, it came through going on cruises. And for years, I was a part of a group of guys that would just go out cruising, kind of an informal group called the Financial Friends Network. And man, there's just a lot of people on board these ships that have retirement accounts. I don't know about yourself, Mitch, but a lot of the transactions we do, we try to structure it in a tax-free environment if we can. And it was through going on those cruises that were educational to me that, I was able to connect and just meet people, go to dinner with them, walk the islands with them, and just have some fun establishing funding sources and capital partners. So the guy who was running that, it was the guy who actually introduced you and I, a friend of mine, Walter, that we met about 2 years ago. I had a quick phone call with you. And he decided he doesn't want to do it anymore. So he kind of handed the torch off to us to keep these cruises going. So we kind of changed the name. It's called Investor Addicts. And we're hosting a cruise. This is the first one that we're doing since the whole, I mentioned earlier, COVID circus is over. There's no testing required. There's nobody's going to jab you for this to go on the cruise. If you're a non-jabber, I happen to be a non-jabber. But
I'm a non-jabber.
Okay, good for you. You'll probably live longer as a result. But all the jabbed people, not to get into this road, but all the jabbed people I know wound up getting COVID anyway. So what was the point?
Yeah,
So,
I agree.
so, but anyway, the cruise is February 4th, 2023. We're going to leave out of beautiful Miami, Florida here. We're going to start off with a pre-party at February 3rd at Bayside Marketplace. We're going to pick a restaurant bar, which is on my to-do list today that we can all meet at before the ship leaves the following day. But February 4th through the 11th, man, it's a real bargain. And I say it's a real bargain. It's the Symphony of the Seas. It's a huge ship. I think it's the biggest ship out there on the water. It's absolutely beautiful. You can Google it, or better yet, you can go to the website, which is investoraddicts.com. All the information will be on there. We got a lot of amazing speakers lined up. Mitch, you're going to be there. We have Randy Hughes. We have David Richter. We have a lot of names, and we got more people coming on board. There is an educational seminar fee to attend. It's $250. If you want to bring extra family members, you're welcome to bring them. If they're not going to attend the seminar, they don't have to pay for the seminar. But while we're at sea and while we're rolling on the water, cruising, we're going to be in rooms, making connections, learning from each other. And we like to give anybody who wants to come up to the front of the room a chance to speak. Mitch, you've probably seen over the years, there's the thing called the power of the microphone or the power of the podium, right? You speak in front of a bunch of people and suddenly, you'll have people on the next dinner. They'll say, hey, I really like what you're doing. If you ever need any dollars to make a transaction go together, let me know. And that's exactly what happened to me. So
the reason I decided to go is because it's not really heavy into sales. I don't think it's going to be run to the back of the room with your credit card kind of thing. It's just, since we're there and we're all real estate investors and we're all networking, might as well get up there and get a little education. I, for one, will promise you, I will make it worth your $250. I'll come there loaded and I'll drop a bunch of information that it only takes a little crumb every now and then to be worth $250 every time you turn around. So,
oh my gosh, yeah.
Just a little golden nugget somewhere. I used to do a vacation before COVID. I used to do vacation with Mitch, and what it was I had all these followers and people that had my books and people that were asking me questions and everything. And I thought, I don't know any of these people. I mean, I've never met them. So I just one day said, I'm going to go to vacation at this place. And if you want to come, come. So, the first year it was like 25 people. And the second year it was like 48 people. And then it was like 75 people. And then the last year was 128 people came, that the majority of them I didn't know, but I got to know them. And it was very informal. And that's what I kind of thought this was kind of like. So I invited my following that keeps asking me, they keep saying, when are you going to do another vacation with Mitch? I says, look, I'm going to do one from February the 4th to the 11th. It's called investoraddicts.com. Go there and sign up, pay the $250, and we'll do whatever's going on there. Then if we want to go to the pool and have a drink and talk more real estate somewhere, we will. You know what I mean? So I just thought it was a good opportunity for me to get out and get on a cruise, because I love the cruise, and also a chance for some of the people that I hadn't seen for a while to come and attend. And I thought that would be a great benefit for your group too as well. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Absolutely, Mitch. And the business model I just gave a brief overview about the profits we're making in these scattered mobile home lots. I'm going to lay it out for people too. And I'm not selling anything. We're just really trying to cover our costs of doing this event. And we're going to have a videotape, and we're going to offer the video guy is going to offer the tapes at a nominal fee. But this is not a sell your socks off event by any means.
Right?
Yeah.
That's like vacation with Mitch. I told him, I'm not selling anything. I'm not selling anybody anything. I just want to come and meet and talk, have conversations with people that are doing different strategies around the nation or around the world. And I just want to hobnob and talk. Now, I always ended up making my money through private lenders or through someone who would show up a month later or whatever and say they needed some help. But it wasn't about hard closing or closing at all. It was just about making friends and seeing where there was a nice natural fit, where someone had a need and someone had a way to fill it. And it went both ways,
Exactly. And, now that, I'm 63. I don't know what your actual age is, Mitch,
61.
But we're close. You're right on my tails. So, guys our age, we've built up retirement accounts, and, you know, if one guy has the deal and the other guy has the funding source for that deal, that's a real happy marriage. We both need each other. And in the past, we've had different IRA custodians be on board, and they would offer their services and tell you anything you want to know about self-directed accounts. But the beauty about what this cruise attracts is other people who have large self-directed accounts, and they could invest with you, and they need you. So if you have deal flow needs a funding source, and vice versa. And we've made more deals on these cruises and made more money. It wasn't about going there to have your socks. This is not an educational cruise where we sell your socks off at all. It's really to network and connect, and let's make some deals together. And yeah.
I know that it works because I did the same thing more or less. I didn't do it all on cruises, but I did it wherever I went. And when I vacationed, there were usually very wealthy people where I vacationed. And, you know, on the first of every month, I'll make payments on $26 million to my private lenders, who I borrowed, you know, for 15 years at 8%. Because when people are at a certain level, they don't want the money in and out. They just want to set it and forget it. And they just want it, you know. And so it's always good to get out there and talk, and make sure you let people know what you need. Because if they don't know what you need, then there's no chance to connect, you know?
Yeah. And if you want your chance at the microphone to tell people what it is you do, I mean, we'll give folks 20 minutes. You know, we'd like to hear what people do. I always hear other business models that maybe are slightly different from mine, and it allows me to tweak what I'm doing and make it even better. And just a lot of benefit comes from sharing what it is you do and what it is that you need. A lot of people get up there and just share their needs. This is what I need, and people will help you. It's that kind of environment.
Yeah, it's a cool place to be. So anything you'd like to say out there to the newbie who's thinking about getting into this business or even going on that cruise? What would you say to them?
I would say, you know, there's so many educational programs out there that try to get $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 out of you for joining some kind of mentorship program. I'm telling you, just come on the cruise. The value of the cruise itself, there's cheap interior staterooms for $8.99. And you're going to be, that's your lodging, obviously your food and everything else a cruise provides, and beautiful destinations. Just go. You'll learn so much. And what you're really going to learn is that there are groups of people out there that educate and teach that are very gracious. They're just there to help you, to want to see that you succeed. And I say that very humbly. You know, they just want to share their thoughts and ideas with you and see how it is that they can help you. It's not profit motivated for the sake of the education and trying to sell you something. So that's the important. As soon as I met up with this group, the first cruise I went on was about 6 or 7 years ago, I was just amazed with how helpful the people were. And I can get real competent answers from somebody who is actually in the trenches like you and I are, Mitch, actually laying our own capital out there to do deals and get their opinion on something that I need to know, as opposed to, you know, some instructor trying to teach out of a book type of thing.
Yeah. So for you guys that are crunching the numbers and you're trying to do this, let me point out something. It's very interesting and some people don't look at it. This is, you know, I'm always looking at all the different angles. You got a cruise here that's probably going to cost you somewhere around, let's say, $1,800 if you just pick the stateroom, right, with with flights and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But you've got to negate all your food bill for the whole 7 days. You got to take that off because you got to eat wherever you're at. And in this $1,800 is all your food. You know what I mean? So maybe you can turn your air conditioner off or your heater, depending on where you're at, and you're not driving your car for 7 days. So it's a lot more. When you start to dissect it, it's almost stupid not to go.
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree. And, you know, if somebody is challenged with borrowing money and they think that you got to go down to a bank and bare your soul, in the private world, it's not like that. And yes, I've built these relationships up for several years now, but we borrowed several $1 million this year, and I've never filled out a loan application. You know,
it's funny
yeah,
when you deal with a private individual, you get to name your terms and the rate and everything. When you deal with a
yeah,
bank, they tell you. The other thing is, um, you don't even have to like all my money. It's not personally guaranteed. It's collateral only because I only borrow like 65% of what I can sell the house for. Um, so all the rules change, and the good news is if you're starting out, you don't need $1 million. You just need the first 150 grand or 200 grand or 300. You know, no one started out with $5 million from a private lender. No one did, because one, you couldn't even get it out if you wanted to, and probably you were so young. It's a good thing they didn't give you 5 million because you might have messed up. You know, so
exactly.
don't you don't have to do 100 houses a year to be a real winner in this business. I mean, there are people I know that are, excuse me, that are out there doing, 2 or 3 houses a month or one house a month, and it's changing their complete landscape. I never intended to do 100 houses a year for 30 years. I never intended. I just grew into it, and it
Yeah.
seemed to be where I was comfortable. I could fund it all. I could find the money. I could have a life. Um, and a lot of people don't want to be wealthy. What I find most people want is they really don't want to be wealthy because they don't want to pay the price to be wealthy. What they want is they don't want to have to worry about money. If they need to go buy a suit for a wedding or a funeral, they'll go buy one. No big deal. If you
Right.
need to replace some tires on your car, what are they? $1,500 these days or whatever, no big deal. I got it covered. If you need a new car, no big deal. I need to get a new car this year. So I think that most people just don't want to have to worry about money. But if being wealthy is something that you want, you can also pursue that too. But not everybody wants to be wealthy.
Right, right. And maybe the icing on top of that is also that, if you're in your 40s or in your 50s and you don't have any kind of self-directed retirement account, whether it's a solo K or a self-directed Roth IRA, we're going to be doing a lot of discussion on this cruise about that. So you can be building a wealth in real estate through these self-directed accounts. And when you turn 59 and a half, you'll be able to take this money out completely tax-free. You don't have to do all your deals in there, but just do maybe one deal a year or every other year in a self-directed account that when you're 59 and a half, you could start taking qualified distributions out of these accounts. And we have now structured our business in many different buckets that are self-directed retirement accounts, from solo 401ks to HSAs to an ordinary like self-directed Roth IRA account. And we just do a couple deals a year in each of these buckets to keep the, kind of low tone for things. But when we go to sell these, they're tax-free. There's rules you got to follow, but if you understand those rules, they're really not that difficult. We're going to talk a lot about that on this cruise.
There's a reason why the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. It's because the rich, they talk about money. We talk about the latest new law that got passed, what you can do with that law to save yourself from taxation. It's the rules are the same for everybody. Doesn't matter who you are. It's just the people that are taking advantage of these rules. And those rules are there for a place. I mean, for a reason. They put in place for a reason, because they know that if people fend for their own retirements, if they start their own companies, then that's less the government has to take care of, and more taxes, frankly, that the government can collect. Because when you have a business and you're moving houses, you're moving carpet, nails, glass, shingles, and every time that product moves, there's a tax. And every time someone gets paid to install it, there's a tax. And every time someone fires up a truck to roll down the road, there's a gasoline tax and a tire tax and a toll road. And they just know if you'll just give people incentive, which are these what people call loopholes. They're not loopholes, they're just laws that you can get through and not have to pay. And the government does it on purpose to move an economy. So it's
Yep.
it's that simple. All
Well
right,
said.
my friend Tom, I appreciate you being on. Again, February the 4th through the 11th. And if you want to make the pre-launch party, it's February the 3rd, 2023. Go to investoraddicts.com, get all the information. Don't wait too long. If you really want to get in on this, at least get your cruise tickets and get your airline tickets right away. and get your hotel room if you're going a day early. I always suggest you go a day early because if flights get messed up, that cruise ship's not waiting for anybody, and that could be a real big problem. So I say get there on the 3rd. That's when I'm planning on getting there. So.
And you'll catch the pre-party as a bonus on the 3rd.
All right. What time is the pre-party?
It's going to be 7 p.m. on the 3rd. Yep.
All right. So not so bad. All right, my friend. Anything else you want to add before we wrap it up?
No, that's it, Mitch, for now. It's and you and I will catch up on the ship as well, because we got a lot more things in common that I think you'd be surprised to know.
Oh yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be real fun.
Yeah.
All right. This is Mitch Stephen with 1,000 Houses Podcast. I want you to stay tuned with our podcast. If you like this podcast and you enjoy the information, and I think I just crossed over 600 archived podcasts. So, if this one really didn't fit your cup of tea, there's bound to be some of them that are over there that would be dead on for you, because you don't do 600 podcasts and not cover a lot of ground. All right. So that's 1,000 Houses Podcast, or you can go to my website, 1000houses.com. 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 All right. We're out of here. See you later, Tom.
See you, Mitch. Good talking with you.
Bye.
Well, I've had enough of this 9 to 5. This desk and chair robs me of my life.